Well, again, we are so excited to have you here, Gail.
Thank you for having me back.
It's always great to have a die-hard Aggie back home.
Yes.
And we're excited to introduce, for some of you, the first time to meet Gail. And Gail, let me just pose with a couple questions. And while we're having this conversation, this is a shared conversation. So I would invite you to be thinking of questions that you would have for Gail. And we'll have times intermittently as we have this conversation for you to be able to interject your thoughts and your questions for Gail. So you're the Vice President of Strategic Account Management at one of Utah's most enduring companies. Tell us more about that. What is it that you do on a day-in, day-out basis?
Well, I'm very lucky because I can honestly say I have my dream job. And it's a job that was created going on almost 3 years now. And it came from the vision of our CEO, Dave Peterson. And what I get to do is I get to oversee with an incredible team of people the winning of our largest opportunities. And so the name that stuck with us from the beginning is our giant strategy. And it came from the thinking, and this seems like common sense, but we really wanted to take action on it, that we realized as we go after, and our target market are Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, that when you're looking at a Marriott or a General Electric or a GM type of organization, those are the whales. And when you're trying to win business from those types of organizations and your competitors are thinking the same thing and the gloves are off, you just have to approach it differently. So we wanted to have a more focused and strategic direction on trying to win those. And so thus my job got created in being able to lead out on that, and again have an incredible team of people, as I said, to be able to go after these deals. I'm afforded great thinking and great resources, and the support, which is probably most important, as I said, comes from the top down, from our CEO down.
So I'm fascinated with this idea of these well type organizations.
Yes.
So what is your approach as you go and try to tackle some of these well opportunities?
So we, as an organization, as we do research and just wanting to, as a sales organization, we utilize Gartner research a lot. And Gartner research is saying that today's world, and we're certainly experiencing this, there are 11 decision makers on any given opportunity. So I say back in the day, you used to be able to sit across the desk, and if you had the right person sitting across from you, you could shake hands and you could close a deal. The world has changed. So on average, 11 decision makers for an average deal. You go into a GE and you are talking to procurement people from around the world. You will have contacts from around the world coming in. As an example, I'll be in Atlanta on Monday, and we are pursuing McKesson's business, and they are a giant opportunity. And we just received the attendee list, of which 10 people will be with us in Alpharetta, and then 25 people will join us virtually. They literally are from every corner of the world. I always feel bad for the folks in India. They always seem to get the short end of the stick and have to join in the middle of the night. But it's just changed. And so our thinking has to change. We have to consider all of the buyers, their personas, and then get in early. Because if we wait for an RFP to arrive, it's too late. And so with these whales in particular, we have to be on the ground floor with them 2 to 3 years earlier. We have to be crafting the criteria with them. We have to have them using our questions when they submit the RFP. And so it's just, you almost can't get in too early to try to get on the ground floor with these large organizations.
Well, as a sales nerd, and some refer to me as a sales Jedi, and I know there are other Jedi among us, this is fascinating to see kind of just that landscape of having that type of viewpoint into these opportunities. Let's start back to kind of some of your early years. You're a transplant to Utah. You grew up in the Northwest.
I did.
Tell us about your early childhood.
So I grew up in the Northwest. My parents were divorced, and my mom raised my brothers and I, and my dad resided here in the state of Utah, so I had an opportunity to spend summers and holidays here, which was nice. But growing up, I think I would consider myself to have an average childhood. I was great, just kind of middle of the road, and I always knew that I would go to college in Utah. That was sort of just how I was raised, in that would be the point of coming back to Utah. My dad would pay for my school, and so I always just kind of knew that would happen.
And so through that, child, you knew you were going to probably you wanted to stay around here. You chose Utah State.
I did.
Tell us about your Utah State years and some of the leadership experiences you had while you were a student.
Okay. I chose Utah State, believe it or not. So again, you can imagine this is before the internet. This is back when you would get brochures in the mail and that you would go through those. I literally chose Utah State sight unseen. So the first time I ever arrived on campus was the day that I moved here. And the reason why I chose Utah State was because I had some friends growing up in Washington State that went to Washington State University. So my senior year, spent a lot of time in Pullman visiting them, and I fell in love with the concept of a college town. I just thought that was so cool. And from what I could gather from the time that I had in Utah, I saw the University of Utah as more kind of a commuter school, and I really wanted to have that college town experience. And thankfully, I chose Utah State. Incredible time of my life here. I actually knew no one. So in hindsight, I'm kind of proud that I did that. I don't know if I really even knew what I was doing, but what really helped me is I joined a sorority. So I was a Chi Omega and made my lifelong friends. And so really had a lot of my leadership and activity on campus was through the Panalytic system, Chi Omega.
So I'm just curious here in the audience, how many, if you're Greek, raise your hand, or if you have, oh, good, so we have some representation, shout out. Any Chios here? All right.
The house is closed.
Okay, so we got to rebuild that
Yes.
opportunity.
I
So in that experience, you launched coming out of Utah State into your first full-time position at
Yes.
OC Tanner.
Correct.
Tell us how you made that choice in terms of that role and choosing OC Tanner as an employer.
Wish I had a more glamorous story around this, but so I was a journalism major, and I thought that I was going to be a writer. And then as I sort of dug into what that really means, what that looks like, and candidly what it pays, I was like, okay, maybe I'm going to rethink this a little bit. And so what I did realize, I moved to Salt Lake, kind of followed the herd of my friends. You know, when you graduate, you kind of move to Salt Lake. And I just knew I needed a job. And so a girlfriend of mine was working in market research at OC Tanner, and I had no idea. I knew there was a jewelry store downtown and a beautiful retail store, but had no idea that the industry that we're in even existed. And so she said, I think we're hiring. And so I started in our client success department and supported, we have field offices now throughout the world, but at that time in North America, and supported some field offices based at our headquarters.
Wow. How many different roles have you had?
I can't even count. So even though I am actually celebrating my 25-year anniversary this upcoming March, which is so hard to believe, but I have had so many individual careers within those 25 years. Client success, I sold for OC Tanner, which that's really what changed the direction of my career in Southern California for a few years. That was an incredible experience. But I missed Utah and wanted to come back, so I've been living in Park City for the last 15, and then even having come back those last 15 years, have had the opportunity to do so many different things within sales and sales management. So I feel truly blessed, and that is a concerted effort of our organization, and it's not just within sales. We have folks moving from between client success to supply chain to manufacturing to sales, and so you have the opportunity to have sort of these micro careers, you know, into different careers within just the walls of OC Tanner.
So let me kind of dive in a little bit there. You said that the position that you took in outside sales in California was kind of altered your career at OC Tanner. Can you maybe expand upon that a little bit?
Yeah, if I believe that if I wouldn't have gone and left our corporate office and gone out into the field, I definitely wouldn't be in the position that I am today. You need to get that frontline sales experience, especially to be in sales management. It's changed, and you all are probably experiencing this now, or you will experiencing. It's like you need experience to get a job, but how do you get experience if you don't have experience? And so back when I was starting out, it was a little bit easier. I think it's harder than it's ever been before. But to be a sales leader, you really do have to have that experience. And so I needed to know what it felt like to start every January with zero. I needed to know what it felt like to carry that quota. I needed to know what it felt like to be on the front line when maybe perhaps our client success department disappointed the client, but I'm the one, you know, getting taken behind the woodshed. I needed to know what it was like to be able to learn about a new product or service and be able to get it out to the market and sell it. And that experience is invaluable.
How do you know, or how have you kind of determined it's been the right time to pivot into another role? What kind of advice might you share to some our students that are in that, thinking about their career and thinking maybe how long they might be in various roles? How do you know when it's right time to pivot?
I don't know if you always know. For me, my career changes and a lot of times have been unexpected. So I would say what you want to do is always make sure you're in the best position possible for those surprises pivots that occur. Like, as I said, my role that I'm in today, I would never 4 years ago have anticipated that it would even exist. And so what you want to do is be in the right position and have the right exposure, that when a leader in your organization is thinking about a change or someone leaves, you want to be the person that they're thinking of to go to. And so I think that's more important.
Tell us a little bit about your team. I'm curious, you manage a team of folks at OC Tanner. Tell us a little bit about them and kind of what they do and the roles that they're in.
My team is phenomenal. And so that's, again, I feel like I'm just up here stating the obvious, but surround yourself by incredible people and then treat them very well and recognize them and make sure that they know how valued they are. Our team is made up of project managers and writers. And so our project managers manage all of the different multi-million-dollar opportunities that come in, and then our writers respond to the RFPs that come in. So we used to have opportunities that would not have RFPs. It seems that the future now is everybody goes to RFP. And so we need to have top-notch writers that are able to respond to those and manage the opportunities through to presentation and then close.
Yeah, so for our students that maybe are not familiar with this process, RFP, anybody help me? Request for proposal, right? And so we had Gail into our classes a few months ago and talked about the importance of writing.
Gosh,
Could you
yes.
speak to this? I mean, sometimes we forget that we're in a business school, but much of the work that we do is in the way that we articulate in language. Can you maybe share?
So I am particularly passionate about writing, and maybe perhaps because I was a journalism major, but I'll tell you, there's nothing bigger that is a bigger turnoff than a poor writer. If you're going to be in sales, you have to make sure that you're a good communicator, and writing is so key. I am solicited for a variety of different reasons, and I mean, honestly, it's fascinating to see, and candidly, sometimes disappointing to see how poor some of the writing is that you receive. But to follow up, to send emails, soliciting, to be able to just do a nice follow-up thank you letter. Writing is incredibly, incredibly important, and you will be judged. Whether you're a good writer or you're a poor writer, it will be judged, and it can make or break your opportunity. So writing is truly key. Don't underestimate it. If you're not confident in it, have somebody edit or help you, but you can literally, a deal can stop if you are a poor communicator, because that represents who you are.
And this message has been paid and furnished by your high school English teachers.
Yes.
Right? And so thinking about just the importance of writing, I find that as I interact with sales professionals and sales leaders and leaders across the board, they're looking for great writers. So don't forget those things that you learned in grade school. So let's speak a little bit about OC Tanner. OC Tanner, the company has been iconic for many, many years. Founded by Obert C. Tanner in 1927. You started off selling lapel pins and class rings. It's evolved into so much more. Can you tell us about OC Tanner today?
Yes. So we are, and I don't know if everyone is familiar, but we are an organization that sells recognition and incentive strategies, appreciation strategies to organizations. Our global headquarters is based, of course, in Salt Lake City, and we have headquarters around the world, from Canada, Australia, India, Europe, Singapore, moving into South America, and then strategic partnerships to be able to reach our clients' employees in country. And our technology sits on what we call our culture cloud. And it's made up of strategies where we can help our clients recognize their employees for years of service celebrations, going above and beyond, being safe, sales. We have a strategic partnership with Virgin Pulse, who is the leading well-being provider in the world. and that's integrated. And then we also have, which is very important to what we do and a unique differentiator in the marketplace, our OC Tanner Institute, which is our research and measurement arm of our business. And so that is critical to us because that's the research that we do informs the products and services that we bring to our clients. And so we just recently hosted our premier event, which we call Influence Greatness. We hosted it up at the Cliff Lodge in Snowbird. And we bring in about 300 of our clients and prospective clients, key, contacts that we seek out to have join us. It was an incredible event. And we have different speakers and we're introducing different topics. And we, every year at this event, we introduce our culture report where we do global studies on just what is in the mindset of employees, what is driving their experiences at work, what is driving their engagement, what are inhibitors. And it's been fascinating through the years through our research to see how things have evolved. Employee engagement has been the buzzword for the last 10 to 15 years. But now what's shifting more, we are shifting more now to employee experience. So, and that is from the moment that someone applies for a role to their recruiting experience, to the different individual experiences they have throughout their career. And what we want to do is be able to partner with our clients to be able to enhance those experiences. And it's not what we're finding that moves the needle for employees in terms of their willingness to want to stay with the organization or be more engaged is not the big ones. It's not the 25-year anniversary gathering. It's the manager caught them doing something right in that moment and recognize them for it. And it's those, we're calling micro experiences, if you will, that happen naturally, good or bad, throughout each individual employee career. And so it's those types of things that we bring to our clients, and then we help them with tools to be able to just support the positive workplace cultures that they're all striving to have.
I'm glad that you're talking about culture. I've visited OC Tanner on a couple of occasions, and I leave with these little pins of appreciation, right? And appreciation's at the core of the culture. As the company's evolved and as you transition into different business entities and units and opportunities, how has OC Tanner maintained that culture? It seems to be just the same, as I go back and see over the years of growth, that same appreciation culture is permeated throughout the organization. Can you speak of how culture and how that has evolved?
So it's funny that you point that out because we try whenever we can. We have a beautiful campus in Salt Lake City, so I encourage any of you, if you ever get a chance, we are kind of known as that big mirrored building that's on State Street around 21st South, but it's a beautiful campus. And so aesthetically, that helps from a culture perspective. But we try whenever we can to get our clients or prospective clients to come to our campus because, candidly, we love to just host them and have them meet the teams that are working so hard for them behind the scenes. But also, selfishly, if it's a prospective client, our win rate goes through the roof if we can get them to come to our campus. And it's because they get under the hood of who we are as a potential partner, but also because time and time again, they tell us that our culture is palpable. And I think we've been able to maintain that through the years for a variety of reasons. First, also because we've pretty much maintained our company employee size. When we meet with other organizations, one of the reasons why they want to partner with us is because they're growing so fast. Their culture, they're losing that ground culture. It's hard to maintain a close-knit culture when you through acquisition, you've tripled your size. And so that's oftentimes why clients will seek us out, is to help us to maintain our culture. So I think us maintaining our employee size has helped, but it's definitely a leadership down piece. Our chair of board is Carolyn Tanner Irish. She's our founder, Obert's daughter, and we are a privately held company. We, interestingly enough, are probably about 25, maybe 30 years into a 100-year trust. So we cannot be bought and sold for at least 70 more years. That was put in place by our founder. And our shareholders are very invested in giving back to the business. And so I think that, and then again, we have an incredible executive team led by Dave Peterson, who is an amazing leader and has meant so much to me in my career, that I think we just are able to keep it powerful.
Tell me a little bit about Dave and Carolyn in terms of their leaders. What do you observe in them that make them amazing leaders?
Carolyn is incredibly philanthropic, and thus we are an incredibly philanthropic organization. And I'm proud to see the Tanner, OC Tanner pieces
We are
throughout
as
this
well.
building.
Thank you,
Yes,
thank you.
yes, we appreciate that. And so that giving philosophy and caring philosophy definitely permeates through the organization. So to have her at the helm, I think, is very symbolic. And then I think Dave is naturally an extension of that. He's an incredibly philanthropic man just in general. That's his part of his core. And so again, I think that trickles down, and it's that giving, caring feeling. He also just is, he's not a leader that is behind a wall. That it just comes out of his office every once in a while. I mean, he's in the cafeteria eating every day with everyone else, and knows everyone, and is just very personable.
Well, I know all of us here at Utah State are very appreciative of the investment that OC Tanner's made in Utah State University. For our students that, as a proud Aggie myself, I remember some of my earliest memories in the business school were up in the Tanner Lounge. Up on the 9th floor of the Eccles Business Building. We're so grateful here in Huntsman Hall we have the Tanner Terrace. So maybe as you enjoy, students, these spaces, will also, again, appreciate OC Tanner and their investment in Utah State.
Well, and might I say too, because working in Salt Lake, there's a lot of BYU Utah talk that goes on, but I am proud to say there is a Utah State football helmet that sits in Dave Peterson's office. And so, yes, I make sure that he remembers. We have a bet every year. He's a big BYU fan. So we bet on the football game, we bet $1 every year. And I'm happy to be collecting those dollars. And I plan to collect one on November 21st.
Yes, we're excited about that. Looking forward to that. Let's open it up to our students. I know that we've had some time to converse here. Hopefully you have some thoughts. And I'd like to have you raise those with your name and your major so we can get to know you. Open it for questions. And please stand, and we have a mic and mics that are roving the room here.
I'm Justin Gower. I'm a marketing major.
Justin.
I'm also from the Northwest.
Oh, nice.
And I came to Utah State. So I was wondering if you've ever wanted to move back, and what your thought process on is and stay in Salt Lake and stuff
So
like
that's a great question. So I've had the opportunity to live in a few states, and I'll tell you, no, because I don't miss the rain, and when it's not rainy, it's damp. Right? You can appreciate it. So it's almost rather have the rain than just the dampness. But also from where I have lived, and I also am very lucky that I have the opportunity to travel quite a bit for my role, which I love. I love to see the world. There are a few places that are harder to beat than Utah. Utah is just, we're lucky. We are very lucky, and in particular, I love Park City. I've raised my children there. It's fantastic. So no, but I do like to visit the Northwest.
Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, my name's Cash. I work for a company called Nevro. We do spinal cord stimulator implants, and the company is in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and it started as this small startup, and it's grown to I think it's doubled in size. So
Nice.
two questions. So the culture, and we just got a new CEO. The last one got fired, so that changes a lot of things, right?
Yes.
And so I have two questions. I guess one is that you say that the culture as it grows, you try to preserve it. I guess the bigger question is, what is it about culture? It's such a buzzword. Like, what is culture?
It's such a great question, because what we talk to our clients about is every company has a culture, good or bad, and every company has a culture. And so if you don't try to get your arms around it, if you don't try to positively infect it, the culture is going to be a reflection of that. And so it is, you're right, it is the buzzword, is culture. And so how do you make it feel palpable? And how do you make sure that it's positively influenced? And there is just not a silver bullet to that. You have to come at it so many different ways. But for sure, and the CEO being fired, that's tough, right? Because, yeah, that's just tough in itself. Because leadership is so key. And when it comes from the top down, that's the organizations that we love to partner with the most, because it just, like I said, it just permeates throughout.
My name is Kevin Hicken. I'm an international business major. And I was just curious, you said that for OC Tanner, you keep your employee size relatively the same. But how would you do that being on an international scale? I was just curious.
That's a good question. So when I meant at our corporate headquarters, and I don't think it's necessarily by design that we've done that. It's just kind of worked out that way. But we have scaled definitely internationally, and that's where our employee growth will come. We have probably now maybe about 25 or 30 employees in India. We have maybe, I want to say 300 in Canada. Europe will continue to grow. So that will be a challenge for us. And another challenge too, when you think about it from an employee size perspective, is how do you have the experiences of your India employees feel the same as the corporate headquarters? And you don't want things to feel always corporate driven or North Americanized. And we when we talk with our clients, but we face the same challenge, what we tell them, especially if they're very global, is what we want to do is provide equitable experiences. Because if you try to just do everything that you're doing in Utah, in India, it's not going to feel authentic, right? I mean, they have their own celebrations, their own traditions and culture, but we want to have equity feel in terms of just experience. And so to your point, I said that, but we probably will continue as we grow globally, have to keep our eye on the culture.
Very good. So some more hands here with some questions. I know the mics are working away around here.
Is this okay? Is that on? Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay. Spencer Fairbanks. I'm currently in accounting and finance. My first question is if you know my uncle Steve Fairbanks.
Oh my gosh, yes, how funny.
Okay,
And
yeah.
wait, okay, and then his brother just started. Is that your dad?
Greg is
Yes,
my,
Greg.
is my other uncle.
Oh, that's so funny. They're in our IT product development department.
Okay. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess I'm looking to be a third generation OC Tanner worker because my grandpa is where it all started. And so I'm wondering what's the best way, obviously besides my uncles, to like learn about the culture, like to learn about what OC Tanner's looking for and to kind of investigate and understand.
So your grandfather was a managing director in San Francisco, Lynn Fairbanks, and he was legendary. Yes, that's very cool. And Steve has done incredible things. Your uncle has done incredible. He has brought awesome stuff to OC Tanner. I'm so thankful that he joined, and I'm looking forward to getting to know Greg. I would say you're probably pretty solid with that. I don't know. I wouldn't worry about you, but I would internship. I mean, how cool. And you know what, for you, probably what would be really cool is to do an internship in a department perhaps that wouldn't directly link to your uncles and try something a little bit different as well. But yeah, I bet you're probably pretty good.
Let's springboard that for those that have uncles at OC Tanner. Right. But really, it is about internship. And I've had a number of students that have had one of the most marvelous internship opportunities, whether it be in sales or customer success or in some aspect. You know, as you look in your role of talent, you know, what are some ways that our students can have a greater edge to enter the world of OC Tanner, but also the world of these wells that you're interacting with in business?
I would say look for unique experiences. Because what you want to do is you want to stand out. And standing out is by having, again, unique experiences, trying different things or doing something that will be able to allow you to tell a good story when you're interviewing. Because you want to be the person that sticks in their minds. You know, checking the boxes is important, but it's just like when we attempt a sale, right? At the end of the day, we're competing against very formidable competitors, and we want them to choose us, just like you want to be chosen. And so you have to have things that make you stand out of the crowd, that make people think things differently. If you can teach somebody something or have them look at it differently or have them take into consideration something they hadn't considered in the past, those are the things that will push you over the edge. And that's what we try to do every time we try to close a deal.
So for those that need to be yelled at, different, better, special, right? Isn't that what Professor Schultz teaches here in the marketing program? I know there's
I have to remember that.
Different, better, special, right?
Okay.
Right, and so I love that, building off of that uniqueness, right? Having unique experiences, which we pride ourselves here in the Huntsman School trying to provide.
Well, yeah, and when we have these opportunities and we're gathering, and we'll develop a sales strike team for these big whales, and we're talking about the opportunity and who we might be competing against and what we might be wanting to present and things. Oftentimes, to try to ground us and bring us back because we can, start to get out there, I'll just say, but at the end of the day, if we're Marriott, why us? Why OC Tanner? I mean, sometimes you just have to come back to that. Why will they select us as our partner versus our formidable competitors? Because you can get off on tangents and lose direction and start to also think very tactically, but you really need to have that solid foundation to build off of why us. So for you all, when you're interviewing, why me? Why would they select me? And really, and if you can't come up with some pretty solid reasons why, I never feel good about the deal.
And so, as you kind of talk about that, I'm reminded of some of the core values that are at OC Tanner, but you're proposing that maybe students have their core values and be able to share those core competencies and values that make them
and have
different, better, special
confidence
candidate.
in putting them out there. I mean, so similar, when you're finishing an interview, you should have a close, right? I mean, and if we don't close well in a presentation, it's so frustrating because at the end of the day, a lot of things can go sideways in a presentation. You run out of time, technology isn't working, so it's throwing you off. But our most powerful opportunities that we've closed, the best deals of when we've had a good close. So when you're finishing your interview, you need to have a close, and you need to be confident about telling your potential employer why you. That the confidence will be very valued.
So let's roll up the sleeves a little bit because what are some advices in terms of closing, right? So what are some tactics or ways that you go about in your presentations with your opportunities, but also maybe things that our students can translate into closing into interviews?
So the best close, and I've had some not so good closes that I'm not proud of either. The best closes that I've experienced and I've had and that I've witnessed are when they are passionate, but not over passionate, because over passionate can make it awkward, right? You don't want to make people feel uncomfortable, but also personal and from the heart. And it's looking someone in the eye. It's not reading a slide. It's not feeling like you practiced it, and it's personal and from the heart, and it's a reasonable amount of passion.
That's good. Good advice. So whether you're interviewing for a position in sales or not, closing an interview, right? Something that's so fundamentally important. Let's open it up for some additional questions. Now we got some hands popping over here.
I have a question. I'm Jordan Bell. I'm a master's student for Human Resources and Business Administration.
So you're who we call on oftentimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have been to your campus. It is beautiful. I was very, very much impressed. My question is, with all the integration between manufacturing and corporate and sales that you see at campus, have you seen that really facilitate efficiency and really a change in dynamic in your culture?
That's a very good question. I will say, so our manufacturing approach, or our approach, I should say, to manufacturing and supply chain is through continuous improvement. And so we have an incredible connection to the Shingo work that's done up here. It's led out by an incredible man, Gary Peterson. He's our Executive Vice President of Supply Chain and Manufacturing. And I will tell you, I'm going to be honest, we can do a better job. Meaning that, and I'll just use sales as an example and take responsibility, the work that Gary and his team have done with continuous improvement is fantastic. So much so that we are a McKinsey Go-See company. Client companies, Fortune 100 companies from around the world, CEOs will fly in to learn what we do in continuous improvement in our manufacturing and supply chain approach. We have a huge opportunity to bring that over into sales. And I brought this up in a meeting Gary had just recently presented to us, and I'm thinking, you can't argue with anything that he's presenting. You cannot argue with continuous improvement, and we could do a better job. So I would say we're not there yet, and I wish we were. I should probably do something about that, but.
So here's an opportunity for those to kind of noodle and think about continuous improvement in sales and how Gail might be able to bring that into her organization. Saw a couple hands up here front.
So my name is Elsa Greenwalt, and I'm a senior in MIS. So I'm wondering, what characteristics would you say describes a good company culture? And then how can we, as someone who's potentially investigating a career at a company, what can we do to get a feel for their culture beyond just reading on their website?
Oh, gosh, I know, right? Because how do you really know? I would say, and I can't even say, this is just my personal opinion, that even a Glassdoor review would really give you the feel, because I've read reviews on Glassdoor of companies that I personally have been very involved with, that I've not felt that, and then vice versa, right? I think, honestly, if you want to get the true feel for culture, talking to a frontline employee, talking to a middle manager, and just talking to them about their experiences is really important. And then, what was the first part of your question? I'm sorry.
Just what characteristics do you think would describe a good company culture?
They over-communicate. You cannot communicate enough within an organization, because the worst thing in the world is when employees feel like they're out of touch, or they don't know what's going on, or decisions are made, like a CEO being let go. Like, you can't over-communicate on that. And I think a lot of times companies will feel like they can't say anything or they shouldn't say anything. Well, then innuendo surfaces, right? Because people will make up their own story if a story is not given. So I think multiple vehicles of communication so that people feel like they're in the know is really, really important. And we have a great culture, as we've been talking about at OC Tanner, and we could still improve with communication. People want to feel like they're in the know, and they want to feel like they're being heard. And so that's another reason why continuous improvement is so great, is because it really encourages the frontline employee to be able to drive innovation within the organization, then instead of being told by management, this is what you'll do.
Thank you.
My name is Daniel Smith. I'm a senior in marketing. My question for you is, I have the opportunity, I guess, next week to go to a company's headquarters. They're flying us out there, and we're going to go there for career day.
Nice.
When you go there, what do you look for? What do you really search for, with along the lines of what she said of finding the company culture inside of the headquarters?
So what we encourage our clients to do when they come to our headquarters, to prospective clients or clients, is feel free to ask anybody anything. And so again, I would encourage you to kind of go off the beaten path, because they'll probably have some organization and structure, right, to your time there, and they'll maybe kind of herd you along a little bit. Maybe step off the beaten path a little bit, and if you feel comfortable, ask permission, and they'll likely say yes. To just ask a few people, how long have you been here? Did you start in this position? Do you foresee you staying here for a while? Kind of doing like a net promoter sort of interview, if you will. And because it'll be interesting. We've had some people, when they've asked questions of some of our employees, some candid responses where sometimes we're like, oh boy, maybe this isn't a good idea. But 9 times out of 10, it actually is really worthwhile. So look for those opportunities. And honestly, even if you're a great measure, even if you're carrying a tray through their cafeteria, even just the person checking you out, because those, the different pockets are going to be a great indicator for culture.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Net Promoter, Gail. It's something that I think as students you need to be recognizing that a lot of businesses will measure their loyalty and their engagement using Net Promoter Score. So I encourage you to read the work of Fred Reichheld and others that have done research around Net Promoter. Right, the likelihood to recommend this organization to a friend or family member, vice versa, another, and it's used in a lot of measurement of loyalty and engagement.
And we're actually now being sought out, again, with our research arm of our business by a lot of our clients to be able to make correlations between the use of recognition and the frequency of people being recognized to Net Promoter Scores. And we're seeing some really strong correlations there.
Fascinating. So, and that's been my experience working with OC Tanner. There's an underlying science to the culture, and underlying science to appreciation and recognition. And they're leading the charge in insights. So it's very common that you'll read, whether it's your colleague David Sturt, who's written
Yes.
books on
incredible.
on a culture, organizations. There's clearly we can look to OC Tanner for a lot of thought leadership in this space. Time for a couple more questions.
I just have a question first. My name is Sarah Dent Merrill. I'm dual majoring in marketing and international business. And I'm really passionate about powering women, especially in the business school. And I was wondering if you have any advice for us women to kind of get to the position that you're at in your career.
It's a great question. I have been very lucky to have mentors throughout my career. People who saw things in me that I didn't even see myself. And that there's not a more stronger confidence builder than that. And so what I would do is seek out a mentor. If you see someone, identify someone, ask them questions, ask their advice. It's amazing, and because they will guide you and they will think about you when opportunities arise and they will recommend you. So definitely keep your eye out for a mentor or two. And then when you get to the point that you're where you want to be in your career, give back and be a mentor to someone else, definitely. I think that women in particular, it's interesting, we can be more competitive with each other than people realize. And I think we need to have each other's back more and not see each other as competition, but be the one giving the hand up and then turn around and do the same thing for someone else. So, but first things first, definitely look for a mentor.
I love that. Thank you.
Could you share with us some of the influential mentors that you've had and how
Yes.
they've kind of altered your career path and your life?
Yes. So I had an incredible mentor, a woman by the name of Joyce Anderson, who actually was from Cache Valley. And she was a sales vice president when I was starting in sales management. And she took me out on the road and she taught me so many things. I mean, she was almost like a second mom to me. And everything from, just the basics of how to travel, on your own and what to do, your expenses, what to be careful or mindful of. And guiding me through honing my presentation skills and how to communicate with clients. And she just really took me under my wing. And I wasn't the only woman in OC Tanner that did that she did that for. She did it with some of my other female colleagues. And we all just so respect her and admire her. And she just was incredible. She was a gift for me.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. Other questions? Back here. Tanya's
Yeah.
raising her hand. She's not saying that we have 5 minutes, which she often gives me. She's actually got a question, so let's work our way back to the back there.
I'm Tanya Davis. I work here in the Dean's office, for those of you that don't know me. But I've had the incredible opportunity to work with Gail over the last couple of years on some things. And one of the things that I've heard you say, Gail, several times is the importance of making every customer feel like your only customer. And it's something that I've tried to sort of incorporate into my own workflow, and I'm not super great at, but I can attest to the fact that Gail is very good at this. So I'm just wondering how you do that. You have a large portfolio of clients you're trying to work with and accounts you're trying to land. How do you make time and sort of prioritize your work so that you are making every customer feel like they're your only or most important customer?
It's hard, but it's important. It really is. And especially in the role that I'm in, we work with, my team works with our largest clients. And these are companies that are literally, these contacts are being called on every single day by our competitors. And so we can never rest on our laurels. And so it's being thoughtful. It's keeping your ear to the floor. It's always being aware. So it's staying up on their business. It's knowing if they had a great fourth quarter and congratulating them on that. It's knowing how, what their CEO just said in an important speech. It's keeping up on their business, but it's also the personal things too. Personal gestures, handwritten thank you notes, getting to know them on a personal level, just being conscious of them, as human beings. You can never rest on those things. And, 9 times out of 10, it's a pleasure to do it. But you're right, there's a million other things that you could be doing and that instead of doing those things, but they make a big difference. They really do. You can never take a strong client relationship for granted, ever. And so you need to always make sure that you're giving 110% to that.
Very good. Thank you. Saw another couple hands up here. There was Mokes. Please stand.
I'm Jazz. I'm an accounting major. And that was actually pretty along the lines with what I was going to ask. What I've noticed is you guys obviously do like material recognition, so like metals and stuff. But what I'm understanding is that at OC Tanner, there's more of a culture which drives people to want to go back for like a 3rd generation or just like to stay with the company. And I was just wondering, it's really kind of along the same lines, but just like you, maybe even as a mom or just as a friend, what are ways that you maybe just in immaterial ways acknowledge other people and like show that sort of leadership where you're just caring about others and making them feel important?
It's a great question. I always feel like I could do a better job. I never feel like I have it dialed, honestly. And people inspire me. We had a speaker at our Influence Greatness event that I mentioned who inspired me that I need to do a better job. And I think it's stopping, slowing down, and just taking notice. I mean, small gestures mean so much. That's kind of goes back to what I was saying about those experiences, right? And I think it's just slowing down and being conscious. I mean, we're in a whirlwind where, I'm surprised I don't even have my phone next to me. This is probably the longest I've not sat with my phone, right? And so it's like we're so dialed into that stuff. It's stopping and being methodical about it and kind of forcing it. I don't want to make, I'm going to make a tie to something but your question was so thoughtful, but it's sort of like when you're in sales and prospecting, right? You kind of have to force it and make the time on a daily basis. And I think you have to put, because if you're in sales and you're not continuously prospecting, you're not going to have a great career and it's not going to last long. And it's sort of those thoughtful gestures too. You've got to do things to keep it top of mind.
And so in your world, for those students that are maybe not familiar with sales process and you're talking about prospecting, kind of what has been your approaches over your career to prospect? I mean, obviously it probably varies in different roles, but maybe speak to that.
So if you are carrying a quota, and so often now what's really popular in terms of sales is selling software, right? Sell software. So your software sells. You have to prospect every day. Force yourself to do it every day. And there is no silver bullet with prospecting. I mean, you have to try 100 different things and then hone the ones that are most successful for you. But it has to be a daily habit. And you can never take your eye off the ball. It's really easy if you get a deal in to just concentrate on trying to just cultivate and close that deal. But as soon as that deal's closed, what's in your pipeline? And so you have to just be very disciplined with prospecting every single day. No matter how full your pipeline is, never take your eye off that ball.
So let me revisit something you kind of hit on earlier, and you talked about some failure or mistakes maybe made in closing. I'm kind of putting out some vulnerability.
I have so many stories of things that have gone wrong in presentations.
I'm fascinated,
right?
right?
I just think of them and cringe.
So
we laugh.
Your business school is a great place to talk about failures because that's where we want our students to learn maybe what to avoid in their careers. But maybe speak to some things that maybe experiences that didn't go as optimally, maybe what happened.
It's funny, because one of the most important things you can do, there's a lot of important things that need to happen in presentations, but you really need to differentiate yourself. The kiss of death in our business is when you get the feedback, if we're doing an exit interview, well, you all look the same. Because when you all look the same, you just go to price. And we are a premium price player in our market, and we want to be there. We never want that to change. So to do that, we really have to differentiate ourselves. And so I do have a funny story where we were talking before we came up on stage about differentiation and creativity, and we were talking about a sales opportunity, I guess a sales contest last year, where some folks from BYU won they were really creative with this Pinterest piece, and I was thinking about the things we've done through the years to be creative. So this is kind of embarrassing to tell this story, but I'll tell it anyway. So we had this opportunity with Owens Corning. So if you're familiar, Owens Corning is the pink insulation. Back in the day, the Pink Panther was their icon. And so we were presenting to them in Michigan. And we had this concept of, because it's Owens Corning, and they helped build the house, let's create this house. And each component of the house will be, training, and solution designs the foundation. And then this upper bedroom is the award strategy. And so each presenter represented a piece of this house. And when I go on presentations, not only am I presenting, but I'm sort of kind of the foundation of leading and trying to pull all the subject matter experts together and make it go well. So I'm really trying to tell them, I'm like, this is your piece of your house. So when you're done presenting, you have to put it here, because you can't build on the house if somebody hasn't put their piece. Well, people were forgetting, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm watching them, and I'm like, put your piece on. And then they're not putting it on right. And then all of a sudden, I'm on my hands and knees, like putting one in, crawling back to my seat. All of a sudden, at the end, the close was supposed to be, so if you partner with OC Tanner, you can see this beautiful home we can build together. Well, nobody put their pieces in right, so it was all like crooked and disheveled and everything. And we're like, so if you partner with OC Tanner, and everybody in the audience was like, yeah, we just walked out. We didn't even say a word. We were just like, and no surprise, we did not win that business. So yeah, it was bad.
So
Never do that again.
I love the example of creativity, but having the tight orchestration understanding of how to do that.
Yeah.
That's excellent. We have time for maybe one more question. Mike in the back there.
Hello, my name's Ross Baldwin. I'm studying economics, finance, and philosophy. So on that experience of the house not going right, I'm curious to hear how OC Tanner handles failures like that. How do you bounce back from that?
Live and learn, for sure. Live and learn. I mean, it's humbling, certainly. And even more humbling is when we feel like we've nailed everything completely. You're walking out, you want a high five, and then we don't win the business. And I think we have to be humble about it and learn from our mistakes. And what we try to do, honestly, is we try to speak to whomever we were, whose business we were trying to win, and learn from them. And it's painful sometimes to hear the feedback, because it goes against what we thought we were doing or the message that we were conveying. But you have to be humble and take the feedback, and then apply it and learn from it, and don't make those mistakes again if you can.
Gail, that is so very important. I'm glad that we don't want to end on failure, but let me just want to make a point here that I think as students, one of the great things about our education here at the Huntsman School is it's a safe place to take risks, right? To learn from failure. I've always told the leadership here in the school that I think we should have a class where the highest grade is an F, right? And that's what you want to achieve, right? Is to be able to fail frequently in this environment. But clearly Gail hasn't been a failure, and we attribute a lot of success to what she has done. Let me just kind of spin that question just kind of in terms of conclusion. When you do have a win, what does that feel like, right? Just for those, when you're talking about this well in this meeting you have upcoming in Georgia, assuming you win that business, what is that going to feel like?
It feels incredible. It feels, the blood, sweat, and tears that you've put into the opportunity. You feel gratitude, you feel thankful, you feel humbled, you feel nervous, because now we need to execute, on what we've proposed, and you don't want to disappoint, and so there's a lot of feelings. And then you also, in sales, this is the world of sales, then you feel like, okay, I got to get my next one too. We probably never celebrate enough and just take a moment. So I would encourage, when you have those successes in your careers, take a moment, because you'll be on to the next one soon enough. But yeah, lots of exciting, good, emotional feelings.
Well, let's celebrate today and having Gail here. This has been very insightful for me, and hopefully for all of us that has participated. We have in Gail a devout Aggie that is making a difference in her organization and in the world that she serves. Let's thank Gail Bedke for being with us.
Thank you.